Record on the cloud. So good evening and welcome to Master Gardener training tonight. Thank you for everyone who logged in. As the days get longer and the weather gets warmer, it's going to be more tempting to skip out on class and just watch it on recording. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the class quiz tonight from the last quiz and then the previous ones. So we have two quizzes to go over. But first we're going to do the one on the critters, on the wildlife. And so the first question is, using collapsing tubes will help reduce bat populations because bats cannot re-enter the tube after they leave it. True or false? True answer. Because the tube will come out of the house, out of the place where the bats are, and it's flat, they will crawl through that and fly out, and then it collapses behind them. So they can't come back in. That end is down. So, and it's really important to use a collapsible tube because it allows them to go out on their own, and it's much better than just sealing something up and then having them die in the attic or a building space or something like that. Let them come out and then you can seal it off. So these collapsing tubes are really good for controlling bats and keeping them out. And once you get them out, please seal up all your cracks because a bat can go through a crack the width of 3/8 inch. So they can go, little brown bat will squeeze down just like a mouse to 3/8 inch. So, okay, the next one is the black ferret is the predator of the what?
Prairie dog.
It is the prairie dog. So if you see black ferrets, they usually, that is a natural predator of the prairie dog, and that they're out working on prairie dog villages on their own. So that is a natural predator. The black ferret is protected, and so that probably will not allow you to use any toxicants or fumigants in a prairie dog village when the presence of that protected creature is present. But it is very important to control prairie dogs because if you have cattle or horses, they fall in those holes, break legs, and then that becomes very expensive when you start losing cattle and horses. So, and we do have that reality out here where we have a lot of acreages in western Nebraska where people do have cattle and horses. So that is something that people will ask about. Removal of cat food is a way to not attract the following: possum, skunk, raccoon, or all of them?
All of them.
They eat it all. So all of these three will go after cat food. And it can be used as a form of bait because some people have put cat food out and then they've used it as bait to get rid of them. But if you don't have that out, that does modify the environment. So that's called an environment modification. Deer will seriously damage woody plant material by rubbing their antlers on branches and trunks.
True.
Absolutely true, especially if they go all the way around the trunk or a branch. They've cut off all the movement with the xylem and the phloem, and they're zapped. So that is a problem. So we're going to drop the light up here up front. There we go. So you may not see you may not see me as good. It's nothing that special to see me, but it's a little less glare. So you won't get the glare off my bald head. But deer do cause quite a bit of damage in the rut season where they are rubbing off the bark, and which takes off the cambium layer and causes quite a bit of damage. Okay, the next one, hail screen barriers on animal prone material is a norm I need to reread that. Hail screen barriers on animal prone plant material is known as a form of what? We're putting up a hail screen.
Exclusion.
We're keeping them out. It's a simple barrier. So whether we're doing it with rats or with rabbits or voles that go under, we're trying to keep them from digging under. And so we usually have to place that hail screen down into the soil as well as up. So usually 6 inches deep as on burying that down as an exclusion. What is an example of a habitat modification? What wildlife species would you apply this modification to as a form of damage management? This is one of those open-ended, you could type in whatever you wanted to do.
Fencing to keep out
Fencing.
anything from a garden, or putting up that aluminum flashing around a tree for squirrels.
Mhm. I would be changing the habitat. Removing the cat food would be a,
Putting your tomato cage in so your chickens didn't get in.
yes, I'd put the tomato cage around so my chickens don't dust in my garden. Yeah, those are all little examples of what you can do is you're not, you're just, and some of it may be exclusion, but you're changing the, you're putting up rabbit tubes up around the trunks of small trees. So things aren't chewing on them. Those are just some habitat modifications. Removing the wood piles so you don't have the snakes anymore. That's a good habitat modification. The rabbit tubes are really an exclusion, but you think about removing the weeds around the weeds and the debris around a landscape that would attract the voles to hang around in, for instance, or making sure that you are controlling some of the insect population in your lawn because moles like insects. So that would be good. Sweeping up the grain, the fallen grain to keep from the starlings from showing up and populating an area. Okay, this is David's messed up, and Julie Jacobson, thank you for clarifying this. I was writing a trick question and I messed myself up, so this is the joke. The joke's on me. Wildlife mammals, so this is the mammal one, cannot be relocated more than how many yards? I put feet in, and that's not correct. It is yards. How many yards from the collection point?
100.
It's 100 yards.
Yeah, like I knew it wasn't.
It's a football field.
far.
So like some things like, something like a raccoon. You're going to remove it and you're going to drop it off 100 yards away. Are they going to come back? You better believe it, they will. And so will the cottontail rabbit and some things like that. So squirrels are the same way. So that's what it was. So I was trying to trick you and I messed up my own darn question. Amphibians are 50 yards. So amphibians are 50.
They have to go more than 100.
Yes, so mammals, you can only move 100 yards from where you collected them. So if you have a rabbit or a raccoon that you've trapped right here, you can only move it 100 yards by state law.
By state law.
By state law.
What about garter snakes?
Garter snakes, since that would, I don't know if that really fits in that 50 or not, though. They're not protected, so you can just get rid of them.
Because I trap them in my garage because I don't want to kill
Yes.
them. I trap them on glue boards. I go through this whole technique with cooking oil that's not
Uh-huh,
hot. I learned it from Dennis.
uh-huh.
And you put them in the oil, and then you put them through a little, Dawn dish soap bath, and then you rinse them. And I have a net, and I take them probably about a quarter of a mile because I have 2 nests at my rental.
Hmm.
And so they're always getting in my garage. But I have my snake pole and my tongs and my net, and I take them about a quarter of a mile away from my house.
And I don't know necessarily on the snakes. I'd have to look that up, but the amphibians are 50. So
Okay.
50
Now,
yards.
if you find that out, let me know, because I don't want to kill them, but I really want to keep them, move them towards the cornfield away from my house.
Mhm.
I have learned that snakes are territorial. And unless you take them a long, long, long way away from where you find them, they will find their way back to where they were born.
Mhm.
Yeah, they probably will, but
Yeah.
I'm crossing a couple fairly busy roads to get them away.
Yeah, but they will come back.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd have to take them a long way that, and legally, we're not allowed to do that with snakes either, even though they're not protected, so. The last I heard, you could not move them more than 500 yards from where you got them.
We can look that up in the NEB guide. There is a snake NEB guide.
Okay,
So
good.
we can
And you
look
know, we
that.
have one of the best herpetology sites in the world, and Dennis is largely responsible for that. So you can learn a lot on that site.
Oh, yes. There was way more than we could have covered last week. So we just kind of grazed the top. So you've got lots of goodies, and it's also, will also be in your manual. So will also be in there. The next one is these mouse-like pests move in open tunnels and gnaw on woody plant material under snowdrifts.
Voles.
Those are your voles. And the voles also like to eat bird seeds. So you will see a presence of voles being attracted to areas where people feed birds. So that is a possibility. So tree squirrels mark their territory by stripping bark on landscape trees and shrubs. This is commonly known as,
Squirrel graffiti.
it is a squirrel graffiti. Yep, it is squirrel graffiti. So they'll strip the bark and they're marking their territory and making sure that other males are not intruding on their territory. Next question is squirrel graffiti damage needs to be which percentage or higher for a deciduous tree not to survive?
Not sure.
That's 50. So unless the squirrel eats over half of the whole tree, yeah, the tree's going to make it. So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, they do strip, and they usually do enough stripping to mark that territory, and then they usually just leave it. So unless there is a big fight between a lot of male squirrels in the neighborhood over a certain spot. So it does get people's attention. They are very concerned about it, but it's not the total end of the world.
David,
Yes.
according to state law, you cannot legally relocate amphibians or reptiles more than 50 yards. from
Okay.
its original state.
So it's reptiles and amphibians. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Thanks for correcting me. I really appreciate that. I said 500 and it's 50. Thanks.
Those critters, and that's the thing is that, we bring them in and they do that every so often. So, they're going to come back just like the raccoon. There's nothing that's going to stop the raccoon from coming back. You drop them 100 yards, they're going to be back. So this is the other one. This is the one, the insects. So blank is the hard outer skeleton of an insect.
Exoskeleton.
That's your exoskeleton. Mhm. That is your plate of armor that we see on insects. And it's made out of chitin, which is a similar material that is in shellfish. So did you know that cockroaches and lobster are somewhat genetically related? That usually grosses people out, especially the lobster eaters. So, the growth stage between two periods of molting is called a blank. So this is what happens with grubs.
Larvae, isn't it?
Those are your
Instar.
instars.
Instar.
They're the instar stage. So they're it's the growth stage between them shedding. If you look at a diagram of grubs,
Okay.
The larvae are the smallest in the deepest part of the profile, and then they're going to go through an instar and shed and become bigger, and they're going to shed and become to the third instar, which is your most damaging right at the end of the roots, and that's where they do their chewing. So the instar is that one.
But you talk about tree grubs and that sort of thing. I have a
Mhm.
friend who had a big grub problem in the
Mhm.
yard. And mutants, I was wondering if that's what it is or if it's more just sunlight.
What happens is the population starts and there's been zero control on it. And as they age up through the instar stages, they get to that last instar. That's where they're the most hungry. So think of, in some ways, it's similar to a caterpillar where they're eating and gorging themselves. In this case, they're eating plant material, the root systems out of the grass plants. They're gorging themselves. They're going to go through their final stage to emerge out as the June bug. So that's why they're voraciously eating at that last stage to go through that last stage of metamorphosis.
That's the best way to treat them.
You can do systemic insecticide, which there are a number of them, but usually contains the insecticide Merit. And you can apply that to your lawn, and as they are feeding on the roots, then they will get a dose of the toxin. And so that'll usually smoke them. And the other one is using what we call a rescue treatment, meaning they're here, they're doing damage right here and now. You've got to get them controlled. And the threshold is 6 to 8 adult fat grubs, meaning third instar fat grubs in a square foot. And the product that we commonly use is called Dilox for what we call a rescue treatment, meaning it's going to go down right now and hopefully smoke the ones that are actively feeding and doing damage. So there's the one that we apply in the spring. That's the systemic that gets us through the summer. Or if we've got just damage we've got to deal with right now, we've got that rescue treatment we got to do. So you've got a couple of different things here. Okay, so monophagous insects only eat one type of plant.
Yes.
So that's true, mono meaning one. So they're specifically eating one host plant, one or host species. So then you have polyphagous means it doesn't matter, they'll chew on anything. So the study of insects is called what?
Entomology.
Entomology. Instead of talking about families in entomology, we tend to talk about groups of insects by their
Order.
orders. Yes. So when we talk about Hymenoptera, for instance, we're talking about the bees and the wasps. If we're talking about Coleoptera, we're talking about the beetles. So we usually will see our books will be arranged by order, and that's how we usually do our work because they have those similar characteristics. So it's more by order than the family. So spiders and scorpions are considered insects.
False.
False. 6 legs. And so I just gave you the answer to the next one. How many legs do an insects have? They have 6. So, okay, so incomplete. Incomplete.
Has all of those.
That's all of them, because they are not going through the full set of stages. That's where they skip a stage. And so it's not a complete
Yeah, they
cycle.
don't have the pupa stage.
The pupa is not there. So that's where we have the difference. So that's what's missing. The modified mouth part that is used by butterflies to drop liquids is called the proboscis. Yeah. It's like those little birthday horns that you blow and they roll out. Think of like a frog's tongue. They've got the proboscis is curled up, and then they will literally curl that down And it's that little needle-like structure that goes down as you see them drawing up. That's a proboscis drawing nectar out of a flower. So tube-like structure that helps deliver fertilized eggs on a host plant.
Ovipositor.
So not the chicken vent. So I put the chicken answer in there. It's like- so we got an ovipositor and it's a tube and it does lay the eggs out. So insect life cycle that includes the egg, the larva, the pupa, and the adult. That is complete. So pupa is the difference. If it has a pupa stage, it's complete metamorphosis. If it is without it, it's an incomplete. So that's how we figure that. So just wanted to go over those really quick and go to the next thing. So I need to jump out of Google Forms because our class is over on Google Classroom here. So I'm going to exit. And you'd be proud, you remember seeing all my random files on my computer? We are going through a migration of going from UNL Box to OneDrive, and that started today at 5 o'clock Central. So everything that you saw in my debris was moved out. That was an all weekend process. Okay, so this is going into my Google Classroom. Okay. I'm learning these technologies as they come along, so I'm getting better. I'm not perfect by any means.
David, you should be able to find that if you go up in the upper right-hand corner where you see those 9 dots by your letter D. It should come up in Google Classroom, should be one of your options if you scroll down.
Yeah,
there.
well, see
That's
now it
an
is.
easier
It's
way.
here now.
And that's an easier way to find all those extension things that you're looking for.
I know, and for some reason I figured it out on Forms, but yeah, now it's here on Classroom. They set up a different account for Google Classroom, so I probably should move all my stuff on Google Forms over to the other account, so it's all under one place. But, we're getting there, right? We're getting there. Okay, so tonight's class is going to be on landscape management. And I wanted to remind everyone that next week's class on vegetables will be our class on containers. We're going to switch those two out. I do have an opportunity on the 27th of April to teach a program. The program for that topic will be with Omaha Nation as well watching. So we will switch out vegetable gardening and tuck it towards the end. So do something different. So plan on plant combinations being next week. So you have all your class materials. These are all the extension circulars. If you see on here, I want to make sure that, are you still seeing that? That all the extension circulars are up here. These are great. Please keep copies of these. They're great to have, and so great little devices to watch from. So I wanted to make sure that you guys all saw that. So we have also, there is a lecture that was done by Kim Todd and Terry James. That's very good. It is almost 2 hours long. So, and sometimes when we played things on video, it's broken up, so I don't want to play it. I think it's better for you to watch it at home and not break it up, but it's very good, common sense kind of situation material. So we have 2 games tonight that we're going to talk about, and then we will organize this. So, all right, so we have our matching again. And we're just gonna play this like we don't know what it is and learn to make it work. What we will do at the end, we will make a screenshot of this and send this out to everyone. So, does everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Does anyone want to start off with something in here that's a matching?
I think D
Wanna make
is
sure.
legend.
What's that?
D is the legend. I
Okay.
think.
Guidelines for
No, D.
details.
D as in dog.
D is in dog.
Is in dog. An element that describes the symbols or abbreviations used in a document. Sounds like a good answer.
I believe F is north arrow.
Yes, the north arrow. That's why you always see a north arrow. We usually don't do north, south, east, west. We always point north.
H is a topiary.
An ornamental form in which shrubs are sheared into interesting shapes and imaginative characters such as animals. And topiary is down here. I have to scroll down here a little bit. Okay, yes. And okay, question. Once you start that process, can you ever stop and reverse?
No.
The answer is
I don't-
no.
Oh,
Once you
yeah.
start making boxes and elephants and everything like that, I hope you really like that because that's what you're gonna have. So, and globes and that's right. And this is what you see in more very formal landscaping. You think of the English countryside gardens that are manicured and what we call green boxes and meatballs. And
Yeah.
so they're gonna be shaping those rascals all the time. Okay, so. And yes, for those who love that, that's a lot of work. So
I think L is softscape.
plant materials in the landscape. Yes, that probably is right.
Because hardscape is like,
Concrete, bricks,
Yeah, concrete.
pathways. So where is that answer?
I don't know. I don't think,
I don't think we have hardscape.
no, we don't have hardscapes. I just know that's.
Oh, you
what
don't have
hardscapes are.
hardscape in here.
No,
I think D is header. D is in dog. Oh, never mind. Oh, we did that one. Never mind, never mind.
I think E is renewal pruning.
Process removing 1/3. Or is it heading? E,
Yes,
okay.
I think so.
About K, is that herringbone?
It didn't have heading back, okay. I was just double checking to see what other terminology they had in here. You can also use your books too. So if you want to open up your books, we can cheat. We can look them up that way.
How about K, is that herringbone?
What's that?
Is K herringbone?
The relationship between distances on the plan.
The letter K.
Letter K. K, I'm sorry. I thought I heard A. Sorry, and my bell tones aren't in really good shape here. So I apologize. So K is an interlocking pattern. That would be correct. Be the herringbone pattern. If you've ever seen like a chain, like if a herringbone chain, I guess be one way to think about it. That is correct. Which takes a lot of work, designing all that and laying out pavers and bricks and stuff. Okay.
Is J the running bond?
J, a pattern in which bricks are laid end to end, staggered between rows. Probably. Okay. An element that describes symbols. Okay, we already have that one.
I don't,
A simple design in which bricks are placed side by side without staggering.
I think it's stack bond.
Probably, if you have running bond, it'd be probably a stack bond. Is my guess. Is okay.
This makes me think we're gonna put in some kitchen tile.
Yes, it does, because you're right. When you're doing hardscapes, you are working with things like that. You are doing geometric patterns. And so that is very, very correct. Specifications, let's see what's left.
oh, maybe A is specifications, because I didn't know that was an option. I don't know. The distance on the plan to the actual distance on the site. It's either scale.
I think B would be specifications.
Probably would be
Yes.
specifications.
Yes.
Yep.
I think A is drawing scale.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh. And C, we haven't used C. Brick is in-
That might be your Flemish bond. What do you think? Can anyone look that up?
The only
A
one we
brick
got
design.
left.
What's that?
The only one we got left, so that's a good idea, I think.
You know, we got that good old fashioned process of elimination, but yeah, it sounds right because includes for a project where the bricks are laid alongside the wall showing their sides and those laid across the wall showing their ends.
Yeah, that's what the picture on.
Is a Flemish bond? Okay,
Yeah,
so that's good.
like the side of a school, like
Yeah.
they're in that pattern.
Or you think of the old brick walls that were up and then the ends were on the
Mhm.
ends.
Mhm.
More formal.
Yeah.
Well, the guys are the guide wire. If you ever, they're not men, those are the wires. The heavy wires or ropes, they're attached to an object. Those are guy wires.
That'd be N.
Yeah, that'd be N.
I think the header is D.
An element which describes a symbol or abbreviation is used in a document.
We
Okay,
had that as legend.
what's that?
Yeah, we have that as legend.
We had that as legend.
Oh, legend. That's right. What do we have left? A stretcher and a header. ECB.
Think of a header as like on a window, when you're putting a window in, you gotta put a header
Mhm.
above it.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what's left. A, we've used B, we've used C, we've used E.
Oh, have we used G? So I wonder if a brick that's laid and designed to display its long side, is that the one in the building, I don't know. End to end and staggered. J, I would say it's staggered. I don't know.
Do you think that header is your F? Orientation point of landscape design that shows the direction north?
I thought that was north arrow.
We've already used north arrow, sorry.
We haven't used I, and that could be a brick that is laid in a design with its end or short side exposed on the design to create part of the design. So I don't know if that's the header.
That could be the header.
Oh, staggered are the stretchers.
The staggered are the stretchers.
So J
Yeah,
is the stretcher.
J is the stretcher, okay.
That's the staggered.
Instead of a running bond.
Okay. And then what is, okay, we took that one out.
I know what a running bond is. It's where you lay them, next to each other, and then you stagger it the next row above it. I'm pretty sure from my HGTV watching.
It's like the same as the furnished barn. So how do we know the difference?
What are we missing? We've got two we're missing.
Hmm.
Simple design in which bricks are placed side by side without staggering.
I think we're okay there. I think it's stacked bond.
Okay. We've used the heavy wires. Those are the guy wires. M, the N is the L is your soft scape. Your K is your herringbone pattern. J, a pattern in which bricks are laid end to end and staggered between rows. That's one of them that we have a question is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the running bond, but
I think it is. I think J is running bond.
Okay. Okay. I, a brick that has laid and designed with the short end exposed on the design. Is that the header?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
wouldn't that be the header? That's what I thought, to create that extra design that sticks out.
On this Flemish bond, it
Mhm.
has the little short end in between the long ones.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we
Okay.
were doing running bond. That's the long one staggered.
Hmm.
And there's like
Tina's
a
showing me-
stock bond,
Tina's showing me the diagram.
because I don't know.
She's looking up the pictures. So the,
I don't know.
Hmm.
Because the description's kind of a little.
Don't you have a key, David?
yeah, there's a key once I send this in. We can check our answers.
Because I'm not for sure on which way all that is.
So which one are we missing? We've got A, we've got B, we've got C, D, E.
missing G. Right?
Yeah, G.
Give it a
You want
go.
to check the answers and see what we're right or wrong?
Yeah.
See, we just had two switched out.
All right, that's pretty good.
No, but
What's
we got J right on running bond,
Yes.
but we got J, we had two J's for some reason.
Oh, that's what we did on accident. So you want to fix them?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we have a G and we have an I. So obviously G is not a header.
No, I thought it was I. A brick
Yeah.
that's laid in design with the end or short end exposed on the design to stick out.
That should be correct. And then your G should be your stretcher.
Yeah.
long end stretch. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Long side, yep.
Okay. So it's just two turned around. That's not bad. So what I'm gonna do, this is one really cool thing that we can do now with our computers is I can literally take this cursor here. I can scroll down. And I can copy it onto a blank document. And I will post it. Voila. And so I will send this out to you. How about that? That wasn't too terrible, was it? So got that one done. Let's look at the Jeopardy. So the Jeopardy is the one that's not maybe as, since we did matching, maybe Jeopardy will be a little easier. I kind of flip them back and forth because sometimes they are. If you do the terminology, this makes this a lot easier. So we played it either way. And so we tried it. So, okay. A growing area that can grow both warm and cool season grasses.
Transition
State
zone.
of Kansas. The entire state of Kansas falls into this.
Transition zone.
Yes, it does. It is a horrible transition zone. It makes so much more sense. I moved up to here in Western Nebraska and we're out of that transition zone more so. And because we would have people that were growing zoysia next door to people growing bluegrass, and one would cuss that things didn't green up fast enough because of the zoysia, and the bluegrass just struggled terribly during the heat of the summer. So that is a true transition zone. So, okay, the next one, a condition in turf grass caused by a lack of water. Signs of stress include changing leaf blade color, wilted, folded, or curling leaf tips, or depression marks that remain in the turf from foot traffic.
Moisture stress.
Common sense would tell you that's it. There you go. So the biggest one is when you see foot tracks, when people are walking and you can see their foot tracks where the grass doesn't spring back up. That is a sign that we have moisture stress. So that's just a good little clue on that one. A stem that develops from the crown of the parent plant and grows upward with the enclosing leaf sheath.
Tiller.
Talk about tillers. Because stolons are not going to go up. They're going to go to the side. So, okay. A method of thatch control done by a machine that slices into the thatch layers to create space for water penetration and air exchange.
Verticutting.
Yeah, so the little knives are going to go in and they're going to do this. They're going to cut. So that is your verticutting.
So is that different than the plugs that come out? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, those little knives are going to go in and it's going to kick all that stuff out when you rake it out. It looks like someone had brushed out an overmatted dog with all the stuff that's going to come out. When you core aerate, then you have the plugs.
Yes.
So
Okay.
core aerating is the plug. But dethatching is literally cutting and slicing through the thatch layer and bringing all that extra thatch up that you rake off. It's not a practice you should do every year. You should probably do every other year, but some people do it every year and it looks like they just scalped a cat in the process. That's what it looks like, and especially in a lawn that had not been dethatched. Looks, there's some damage done because that knife working through and cutting and pulling all that thatch out, the grass is going to have to, repair itself. A piece of equipment that uses scissor-like actions to cut grass blades.
Real mower.
Real mower.
That's your reel. There you go. And this is a really good time. This is a good talking point for all master gardeners out there. So if people are really interested about doing something right now, tell them to go get their lawnmower serviced, even if they just send it to the small engine place, wherever you go to have it serviced. Or if you're going to service your lawnmower yourself, now's the time to do it to get started before mowing season, because it is still too cool out in western Nebraska to put on pre-emergence herbicides. So if you need something to do, go work on your lawnmower. So grass that is used for spaces such as roads, airstrips, and parks.
Utility turf.
Absolutely. This has to be tough stuff. It's not going to get babied like a home lawn. So a plant that produces rhizomes or underground lateral stems. Remember, there's a hint I dropped.
Rhizominous.
Yep. Going under the ground. Sending those rhizomes out. So tiller's going to go up and rhizome's going to go under the soil.
I grew hops at my house for several years.
Mhm.
They really created a spaghetti mess.
Yes.
And I talked to someone else who's grown them commercially, and said that they would use them in pickle,
Mhm.
the rhizomes.
Oh,
Yeah, seems strange.
Well, and some people will put grape leaves in pickles as a firming agent. So
okay.
they'll do that too. That was a process that people did for a long time. So kind of cool. A plant that produces stolons above
Stolen it.
the lateral stems.
Yeah, stoloniferous.
Grass and the surface layer of the soil held together by the grass roots.
Turf.
That's your turf. And remember, with cool season grass, a lot of times the height that you mow your grass will be the mirror of how deep your roots are. So if you mow your lawn very, very short, your root system is going to be very, very short on the mirror end of it under. So that's why we've now have recommendations for bluegrass and for tall fescue to basically you take a third off and you leave a third, 2/3 behind, similar to grazing, grazing pasture, or just that 3 to 3.5 inch height, just leave it the whole entire year. So
Buffalo grass, is that different?
buffalo grass, you don't have to mow as much and you can leave it at 3.5 inches. You want a really dense, thick buffalo grass lawn because by nature, that buffalo grass, if it has a really good, strong mat, it keeps a lot of other garbage out from growing up.
That's what a good portion of our lawn is. 'Cause
Mhm.
Nobody ever watered it.
Yeah.
Grandma just let it go.
Well, and it's smarter sometimes if you don't have the water available to use or the availability to drag hoses, or if you're on restrictions with water, once you get a good buffalo grass lawn started, that produces that thick old mat and it's perfect. And so you'll see a lot of those, especially like in rural cemeteries.
And the ones
Out here.
developed by the University of Nebraska are just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of development on buffalo grass here over the years. There's also a replication of research out here out at Gehring for turf grass trials. So we have the trials in Lincoln. We also have the Western trials out in Gehring. So that's nice. And years ago here, they used to do turf grass trials in North Platte. So kind of cool. Business that grows seed, sod, or grasses for recreational areas, home and commercial, utility, and sports uses.
Turf grass industry.
And when I was in graduate school at the University of Florida, they had literal turf grass extension agents. That's all they did was turf grass. But the turf grass industry in Florida with the sod farms and the greenhouse and the golf course industry is huge. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. They had very, very specialized, and they had turf grass agents scattered across the state. So it's kind of fascinating. And that's all they did, but they had a lot of work to do. So I
Right,
did.
'cause I guess theirs isn't just like 6 months out of the year though,
Mhm.
like ours would be. Theirs is 12 months out.
12 months out of the year and extremely high expectations.
Yeah,
Baseball.
Baseball fields, yes.
yeah.
All the ball fields, all the golf courses, all the public lands, and the sod farms and the sod industry of people, all the new home installations. So, yeah, isn't that crazy? Still in the United States, still an extension agent or an extension educator, but
Mhm.
vastly different. So to me, it was fascinating. So
Right.
a device that creates a slit in the thatch and the root zone while also planting seed. So this is, that's your slit seeder, yeah. So that's kind of cool. Selecting plants with desirable traits and combining them with to develop improved cultivars. So
Turf
this
grass.
is more on the
Look at
turf
the-
grass side, but we're doing the turf grass breeding. Here is that you're taking those desirable traits and you're making the
Oh.
cross to continually test. And that's why you have the test sites across the United States for different types, including the research done here in Nebraska. Equipment that uses a blade that cuts grass by sucking and tearing the grass blades.
Rotary mower.
That's like what you have at home. That, and cuts her off. Okay, a layer of dead grass and organic matter that forms a mat beneath the leaf blades and above the root zone.
Thatch.
This is the stuff that when you brushed out the cat. So that's your thatch layer. Okay, next one. Equipment that pulls a piece of leaf, stem, and root material from the turf.
Plugging device.
Mhm. That's your plugger. And pulls the little plugs out, and then they break down. You need them, you rake them, you help break that material down, but it brings in those spaces, so it breaks up the layers, allows some water and oxygen, carbon dioxide action to be moving around, which is really good, especially if you have a lot of high traffic areas that are going to compact. So think about the ideal scenario for this would be a fence where your dogs run back and forth across the fence. Think about how compacted that is. That's an area that's going to be primed to need that to bring that up, to break that up because of the well-worn areas. So a process in which fertilizer components change from a solid to a vapor and are released in the atmosphere.
Volatilization.
Yes, we have volatilization all the time where we have with our fertilizers and our, you will hear about volatilization of herbicides as well as it turns into the vapor and spreads. So think about your drift damage with 2,4-D, for instance. It volatilizes, especially at certain temperatures and at wind speeds. So that's when we get the damage on tomato plants and grapes because someone was spraying some 2,4-D when the wind was up or it was a little too hot. It volatilizes and it wafts through. It goes through everyone's yards, and tomatoes and grapes and red buds are all what we call indicator plants of drift
Yeah.
of that
When they
damage.
spray the railroad tracks, that's just across the highway for
Mhm,
me.
mhm.
And it burned some of my leaves 2 years ago.
It'll
and I'm like,
zap ya.
"Ah, what is that? And then that's the only thing I could think of
Mhm.
was that they were spraying along the railroad tracks.
Mhm. And that's how you volatilize. So that is what we're talking about on tonight's class, working with the materials. And so what I will do is I've saved that document with the matching that I can send to you tomorrow. I'm also tomorrow going to scan all those disease pictures of all the disease like fruits and vegetables. I found those in a binder when I moved offices. And so I wanted to scan those and put them into a nice PDF document for everyone. So you have access to those to see them and what they look like, and they'll have the description. So these are the old USDA ones that are still very good resources. A lot of those are gone. And so I wanted you to also have those. It doesn't have the chemical necessarily in there. If I scan it and I see a herbicide or an insecticide or something, I will black that out because that is long gone, not applicable. But the pictures and the descriptions are applicable. So I have some work yet to do. So it's an exciting time here working with all the materials we're going to be doing. We have the garden in the bucket. We'll be starting. It's also, if you want to take a break, let's take a 10-minute break and I'll show you my fertilizer or my soil thermometer and then the table that you use on deciding which vegetable crops, because we're at 8:13, so we have a little bit of time. So let's take a 10-minute break, get some coffee and go to the bathroom, and I'll get you my soil thermometer and I'll show you that really good table that I emailed out to everyone. So it's really good stuff. So we'll see you back in 10 minutes. Resume the recording, but the face of the dial will tell you what the ideal temperatures are, and they do match our extension resources. So when you test soil temperature, you find one space that you're going to test at, and you're going to find one time that you're going to test at as well. So it's the same place and it's going to be at the same time of day. So if you're going to test it 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you need to continue to do that along the cycles for consistency's sake. But you place that soil thermometer down 4 inches deep. I have a little mark here. You can see the little black mark here that I drew on here. This is what 4 inches deep looks like. So right here, so it's going to sit there 4 inches deep, and then you're going to let it calibrate for 10 minutes and let it go. And then you're going to record your temperature. And then you're going to go back at 4 o'clock the next afternoon in the same spot and do that again. And so you're going to do 4 readings. And if your temperature is pretty consistent, right along, with maybe a degree difference or something like that, not very much variation, that tells you you have a consistent temperature to follow. So that's really, really, really important. And so we can go down, we can start planting little onions at 35 degrees and onion and radishes and lettuce. And so I will give that to Tina and you can look at it. There is, I made a goodie for you that I sent off in email. I'm going to go look back. So I made this table for you, and I'll show it to you again.
Pretty detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't find one like that on Amazon
Right.
with the little words on it like that.
So we're going to share my screen and we're going to share this guy. So this is what I sent you on email. This is your calculating guide, and it's got several different factors in here. So if you're wanting to calculate your days to planting, this is what you do. And so you think of your location, your vegetable crop, your cultivar, and then how many days to maturity, because that's important. And then your 90% frost-free date. And that frost-free date is on this table in the background. But it does give you the thermometer instructions. I gave you the thermometer instructions like I talked about that's on this paper now. And then we're going to do, so if you're going to do vegetables such as tomatoes that you're going to grow indoors, you need to know how to count backwards. So you're going to use your frost-free date on your table. And then you're going to be your weeks to transplant size. There's another chart that we'll use. And then you add 2 weeks for hardening. So you're going to grow your transplants, and then you're going to go through the hardening process of growing them. You're going to take them out during the day in kind of a protected area, let them get acclimated to the outdoor environment to toughen them up, and then bring them indoors during the day. And so you're going to do that for a 2-week period. That reduces a lot of transplant shock. And so if you build that time in, then you will tell when you need to do your indoor seeding. So the table I'm going to show you here, this tells you, this is from Purdue Extension, tells you how many weeks you have to start. So your broccoli needs to be 10 weeks from the last frost date. And then you harden those out. So it's 10 weeks plus 2 more. So that's when you count. So tomatoes needs to be 7 weeks plus 2 weeks of hardening. So this has taken the guesswork out of that process. The bottom temperature chart is our annual 90% frost-free date.
What do you mean by the 2 weeks of hardening?
The hardening basically hardens. You have plants that are growing that are very tender. They need to be acclimated to the wind and the cool and the temperature outside. If you plant something that's straight in the greenhouse, straight into the ground, it will go through a terrible case of transplant shock and look really wimpy for a while. So you want to basically toughen them up by being outside during the day to grow and to warm, to get acclimated to the wind. And so, you don't want wimpy plants. You want strong transplants. This is how you strengthen your transplants. And then you put them back in your shed or the house at night to avoid a freeze, take them back out the next day. And you do that for 2 weeks. And then that helps strengthen your transplants. So you roll them in and out. So a lot of the transplants that you buy from your greenhouse will not have been hardened. So it's okay that if you got your favorite thing at your retail store that you have to buy it, spend 2 weeks of hardening. And so you'll get your choice. Because some of our places, you don't get very many choices once it gets picked over. So this is the time, go buy it, harden it, keep it hydrated, and then plant it. But this is our 90% frost-free dates, and this is over years of data in the state. And so you'll see basically around North Platte is right on that May 15th time. So May 15th and later, we're just on the edge. You can see to the west of us, this little light blue dot, that's Ogallala. Why it is earlier than the rest of Keith County, I do not know, but it's a blip. Yeah, it's a blip. And you will see blips in this map. So you need to not just look at your county, but where you're located in the county. So Southern Lincoln County falls into that May 13th to 19th. And North Platte, that's why sometimes we do get those late freezes is in that area. So isn't that interesting? So this is a neat little tool to show you where you're at. Look at McCook, clear down here, Red Willow County. We always joke about McCook being the hot spot. Well, there it is. It's now graphed.
That
So,
makes you wonder
Why is that?
if it's because of the Ogallala has the lake and what McCook has the Red Willow.
the reservoir
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
or the valley and where
Yeah.
it just sits with the Republican Valley is just a
Yeah.
warm spot. Because the lake
Yeah,
effect
something.
does have some cooling effect.
Mhm.
Because it's a large enough body of water. But yeah, you'll see some different spots here. So if you look up in Morrill County, there's a big dot in Morrill County here east of Scotts Bluff. So, but anyway, so this is where you kind of have to eyeball where you live in relation in this map, because you'll see in some of these places, you could have 2 or 3 different categories overlapping in your county. So that's a really good thing to follow. So we're going to go back up here. So then this is what we call on direct seeding. So these are all your crops, like your carrots, like your onions, like your green beans that you're going to literally plant. Radishes, you're going to plant into the ground. So you'd need to find the date of your minimum soil temperature. So that's when you use your soil thermometer. And then the days of maturity. So you calculate, so if it says 55 days to maturity, then you add 14 days for your harvest period. So that gives you a 2-week window to harvest. So like radishes, you're going to pull them up and they're going to be done. But like green beans, they're not going to be set all at the same time. So you're going to have a stretched out window. And if you keep on picking the green beans, you'll get more green beans to blossom and flower. So that's where this comes up. So not only do you have the directions to count backwards for transplants, this is on counting forward for all those direct seeded crops. So that tells you. And then here is the chart that I really like. This is from Oregon State Extension. This is the minimum temperature to plant different crops. So we can see lettuce is at 35, onions are at 35, parsnips are at 35, spinach is at 35, and then, 5 more, then you're up to radishes and turnips and cabbage and carrots and cauliflower and Swiss chard are at 40. So it just slowly creeps its way up. So that's really important to know that soil temperature. So what happens if you don't have this tool? I'm going to show you how to cheat. I'm going to show you how to cheat online with a good university resource. How about that? So we're going to stop share on this and we're going to go to another share on the screen. And I'm going to show you the CropWatch guide here. Can you all see where I'm at? Can everyone see this? This is the week of 3/22. These are the averages at 4 inches deep. So this matches what our soil thermometer tells us. And so this is the bare soil here, daily 4 average bare soil temperature. And this is the weekly 4-inch bare soil. So you have the daily and you have the weekly. If you look right here in Lincoln County, we're sitting at 42 degrees. So that tells us we can plant everything that's minimum of 35 and 40 already. So we could technically plant cauliflower out there right now if you had cauliflower transplants.
So I have a question about that.
Mhm.
So like say you do plant those, but if they come up and say it snows again and drops down below, it's gonna kill the tops
Still
off.
gonna kill the tops off. So you'll have to do some protection.
Do something.
You'll still have to do the
But the
protection.
ground would be warm enough that they will sprout.
The ground will be warm
Okay.
enough for them to sprout, correct. And
It's still gonna blizzard. I just.
yes,
know.
as Julie Jacobson said, we're gonna still get hammered. And that is the exact truth. So that's exactly what's gonna happen. So notice, the temperature down in McCook's is still a little warmer. Isn't that funny? It's just that warm spot. So Jeff, are you on from McCook on tonight?
Yes,
We always joke about it's always warmer in McCook, usually
It
5
is.
degrees.
I
So,
know. I've got
there's a
lettuce
reason
and-
why we call it the hot spot. So
I've got
you
I've got
can
lettuce
take
and
this.
spinach and Other things
You-
coming up.
What's that?
I have lettuce and spinach and other cold crops already coming up. So
Yeah, see, you guys have a little bit of a leap on us.
Yeah.
And, and it's in that valley is just a little warmer and just enough to do it. So here's where you can scroll for your basic communities in your area. So you can look, here's Arthur. Here's the temperatures of Arthur. So this is a 7-day average. Arthur is averaging 40.4 right now. So that is a consistent telling us this is a consistent 40 degrees. This is not going to do a whole lot of deviation. Here's the 7-day high and your 7-day low, and then your average. So always look at this 7-day average. So if you don't have the soil thermometer, look this resource up and look for that 7-day average, what it's saying. So now granted, there's going to be measurements clear across the state. We do have Big Springs here in Brule. We have Cozad, Dickens, Southern Lincoln County,
That's surprising.
Gothenburg is like it's in the neighborhood. So it's going to go down. You can go Clare, Holdridge, Kearney, Lex, and there's a couple Lincoln locations. Up at Myrna and Custer County, Mullen, North Platte. So it'll give you these averages here. So this is a really good tool. If you don't have the soil thermometer, you can look this resource up and you can get that 7-day average, which is a really important little tool. So I wanted to share this with you tonight because it's really important, not only on the vegetables, but it's really important with those pre-emergent herbicides that people will want to put that on too early and then it's not effective. And especially if you're dealing with, that's the same thing if you're dealing with puncture vine and the sandburrs, and that's usually the minimum germination for those guys is around 53 degrees. So when you're doing pre-emergence for the puncture vines and the sandburrs and some of those pests, it's right in the same thing with the rest of your pre-emergence. So it's just really important. I know everyone wants to get this stuff done early, but the early bird misses the worm on this because it's based on soil temperature, on the weed control for the lawn, and also the sandburrs, puncture vines. So, but this is just a great resource, another tool in the toolkit. This is great IPM. If you're using your crop data, then you can do those, you can do that soil temperature data, then you're planting that plant at the right temperature for it to succeed without having to baby it along and using some other things to maybe help it later on. It's so easy to want to buy the tomatoes and the peppers and those eggplants and the okra plants. Even, you can even buy okra transplants now. They want warmer soil. Okra wants 70 degrees. Okra is originally from Africa, so it's going to want a warm soil. So you can't cheat Mother Nature on this. You got to have a warm soil. And there may be times where you may have to put a bucket over your tomato plant to keep it warm, because we may get dangerously cool. Even when the soil gets to 60 degrees, we may get some nights that are going to get dangerously cool. So you're going to have to protect it with the bucket or the milk jug or a wall of water. All of those are perfectly fine, but this will help people out amazingly. So did everyone get to see that little cheat sheet tool that I made? I wanted to make sure that everyone got to see it. This was what was part of the program on garden planting. I did online for the Grow Big Red class on Saturday, but just some more tools to make life a little easier and to share it. You can print this off and hand it out to everyone you want.
Did you send that to us?
Got sent out on email and
You? Yeah.
yes, and Tina, since yours,
I don't always get it.
Tina's email does funny things every so
And,
often.
Randy said he's been sending out surveys on when people want to have the meetings too, and it's not coming
Through.
from
I just
him
resent it.
either.
So I just resent it. For some reason, Tina Galter's email does not take our stuff, so I have to resend it. So I'm resending it to her. Did everyone get this in their email otherwise?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you are welcome to print as many copies and use it as a worksheet, share with other people and use it up. So this will hopefully take some of the guesswork out of planting those crops. But anyway, so that is it for tonight. Are there any other questions that you may have?
I got a question for Jeff. I was wondering how he's keeping his plants from freezing.
Sure, Jeff, would you like to answer?
Sure. I have a cold frame, so if we haven't had much freezing weather, but like last night it threatened to get down to freezing, so I just covered the cold frame. So works great.
Awesome.
So is it like a wood glass? What does the cold frame look like?
Yeah, I just used an old picture window that I got for free and used that for the top, and then just built a wood frame for it. And I'll use it this time of year, and then just take it apart and store it behind the garage for the rest of the year, and then be ready to go again next spring.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to show you our podcasts. This is Grow Big Red, and I contribute to Grow Big Red on our programs. So we do have those classes. I'll show you the class. Our virtual learning series. That was the old one. That was last year's. Trying to find this. So they have podcasts, and I believe that's where our classes have been, where they did their podcast. If not, I will look it up from my email. But yes, there's lots of these they're great classes. And John Porter is the architect of this program. He's the one that organizes it, and I co-teach with John. So I enjoy working with him. Okay. Find that wherever it went. Well, my email just froze. We're in the middle of this transition, and I apologize. We're in the migration onto our program. Maybe it's in here. Here you go. Here it is. It's the Grow Big Red virtual gardening series. And this is John's schedule. So here's the classes. You can click to register. I will put this up here in the chat box. So I will put this to everyone. And I can send it out tomorrow as well. So I did the planning part. So we're doing soil temperatures and things like that. So I cheated and I gave you the handout before they even taught the class. So these are the classes that will be coming up for this next weekend. Will be basic garden pest management, Nicole Stoner from Gage County, and then Sarah Browning from Lancaster County will be teaching about your peas and your lettuce and your radishes and your early crops. And then the next one will be containers and raised beds. So that is the series of the classes. And so you can register online, so not a problem. Just register here on the link It's a Zoom link and you will get your invitations. So please make sure to click on this link here to register, and this is what it'll look like. So it will have it set up. So you just choose the classes that you want, your name and everything, and you will get the link sent to you on email.
Is there a
So-
fee for those classes?
No, there is not a fee. And yes, the classes are recorded, Elaine. So I could send those out too. So, and if you watch them, that would be something you could watch for extra educational hours. Yep. No fee. We found the University of Missouri is doing something similar, and they do have a charge for theirs, but this is one way to get a hold of people. So, but anyway, so we had 89 on last week.
Good grief. Okay.
We had from several different states too that participated. So it turned out to be really, really good.
Yeah,
So
that is great.
we're really excited. So anything else that we have that we need to do? I'm going to stop recording. And so